I recently saw online the suggestion to use a pencil sharpener to sharpen just any old twig or stick and use the shavings as tinder. So when you're out camping or any situation where you need to light a fire, carrying one of these would then let you get easy access to dry timber. If all of the twigs on the ground are wet, then at least the insides are still dry and you can light them with just a spark. I really like this idea, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if you could carry a pencil sharpener like this with a little tub built in, I think a canister pencil sharpener they're sometimes called. And then in that little tub you could keep everything you needed to start a fire. So perhaps some waterproof matches, and if you really needed them, some miniature fire lighters, something like that. Obviously there's not enough space in one of these for a flint and steel or for a lighter, but it would still be quite nice and self-contained. And I thought as well that would make a good scout activity, you know, because you could make some waterproof matches out of normal matches and melted wax, you know, where you dip the heads in the melted wax, and then when you want to light them you scrape the wax off, stops them getting damp from condensation or anything like that. And you can make little fire lighters with straws and Vaseline and cotton wool, that sort of thing. Thought that would make a nice scouting activity, and I mentioned it to my dad, who proceeded to order 3 different pencil sharpeners online to see which was the best for this purpose. Now I had my own designs. I wanted to get one of these Helix Oxford tins just because I quite liked the design on them, and you know, the aesthetics of this I think is a big part of it for me. Incidentally, I found out if you are looking to get one of these, they're phasing out the nice tins with plastic tubs, and then advertising on this new iteration that their packaging is plastic free, and that really annoys me. But you can still find these if you have a little look around. I got this in WH Smith where they had both versions, but if you're ordering it online, make sure you're getting the tin version. But anyhow, I got that, and when I was in WH Smith they had these as well, and I thought, oh, that's fairly nice, I'll pick one of those up too for the comparison. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to do 20 rotations of this stick in each of these pencil sharpeners to see if there's any discernible difference in the tinder that they make. Okay, so that's that test completed. There is a discernible difference. It's not massively important. We haven't seen an enormous difference in quantity with any of these, but some of these are producing much narrower, smaller shavings compared to the wider, larger, more structurally sound shavings here, and I think that's probably to do with the angle of the blade. One thing that we do need to mention though is that I was using for this twig in particular because it's a very narrow twig, and it's one that would fit through any of these smaller holes in these pencil sharpeners. Now I do think, from my experience in gathering some of these sticks to test them out, and I've done a bit of testing for this video, you really do need a pencil sharpener with at least 2 holes in it. You see, this one here only has a single hole, and it really restricts the number of twigs you're going to be able to gather easily in order to create these shavings. You can get Staedtler pencil sharpeners with 2 holes, so we're still keeping this in the running as a representative of those. Another major factor that I've discovered is that some of these are more likely to stick than others, more likely to get some bit of shaving stuck in the pencil sharpener, and then you need to take it apart and scrape that shaving out. And this is a lot more likely to happen with twigs than it is with real pencils. The equivalent of the real pencil is when the lead gets broken off and you have to knock a bit of the lead out of the pencil sharpener. In my experience so far, the pencil sharpeners that produce the narrower shavings are the ones, in this case, which actually need to get unstuck more. And I think that's because when you're producing these narrower shavings, they're a lot more fragile. They very easily crumble and break apart, and bits of those get stuck in the sharpener mechanism. These pencil sharpeners, because they produce the thicker, wider shavings, actually result in much fewer pieces getting stuck. The other factor to consider when we're looking at pieces getting stuck like that is you need to be able to take them apart quickly, knock it out, and carry on with what you're doing. In that instance, this is probably the worst bet, having to pry this lid off each time and then the sharpeners inside. Have to fiddle around with that. This is also fairly tricky. You've got to do that there, and it lines up and clips back in, and maybe I'm just fumbling it, but having to do that a couple of times is a little frustrating. Now, it should be noted as well that here we're really comparing these 4 for the purposes of a tin in which you could keep some waterproof matches and that sort of thing, all self-contained. And this is here as a comparison. Is this really even a good idea? Would I be better off getting some other equipment in a different tin and just including a pencil sharpener? When we're comparing these 4 though, this unfortunately has a big disadvantage, and that's its shape. It really only contains the pencil sharpeners themselves and then these annoyingly curved edges. There's no way to store matches or anything like that in one of these, simply because it's a really awkward shape and size. What we do need to say though is this one has an advantage in a different direction, and that's that it's got this jumbo pencil sharpener here, and that's really nice and really useful. So this isn't the best twig to give an example with because it's hollow in the middle and jams a fair amount, but this wouldn't fit in any of these others very comfortably. You can just about get a tiny little shaving out of it here. Actually, that's doing a lot better than I thought. Maybe it's not the best example, but you can actually get a bit of a shaving out of that one now. But it does fit very nicely and much more comfortably in the jumbo pencil sharpener here. And the advantage of this, of course, is that you're processing a lot more tinder just because it's larger, and you get some beautiful big shavings like that. So when we're thinking about this as a means to produce a small fire starting kit with waterproof matches and miniature fire starters, these are the only 3 in the running, unfortunately. This is probably the best quality. This is quite nice because it's see-through, it's cheap, and it has this small cover here. This doesn't have a cover unlike the other 2, but it's the prettiest, I think, and it is pretty cheap, so at least if you're buying in bulk. So if you're making this with a group of scouts, for instance, we could probably get each scout one of these, which would be fairly nice. Annoyingly though, these are by a fair margin the best pencil sharpeners. at least for this purpose. I haven't actually tested any of these on pencils. So this one is just a comparison anyway. This one has the awkward shape, so you can't store anything in it. What we really need is this pencil sharpener inside one of these containers, and that's not happening. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Either I let the dream die and either carry one of these or one of these about with me, or I just use a less good pencil sharpener and go for pure aesthetics on this and use this one. With this project, I'm aesthetically driven. If I want to have a small, nice thing, I may as well have the prettiest version, even if it doesn't have that waterproof or water resistant, in some cases, cover over it to keep everything dry. So that's where I've come to there. I'm not entirely sure which direction I'm going to take, and it's a bit of a disappointing conclusion. If there were a model of this with the jumbo pencil sharpener that was in a more conveniently shaped container or a more regularly shaped container, that's absolutely the one that I would be going for there. But yeah, disappointing conclusion, and let me know if you have any brilliant ideas on the subject.